You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we got a lot to talk about, but I want to open with this case because it's something that it really weighs on a lot of people's minds these days. On what if a hospital wants to remove your life support and you're not ready? Now, you might not be conscious at the time, but what if the family isn't ready? Well, there is a Texas family that is currently suing a hospital because their 2-year-old child was found at the bottom of a hotel swimming pool. The family and first responders were able to revive her. This happened on Memorial Day in Houston. She kind of wandered into the pool after taking off her life jacket, and her older cousin pulled her out of the water. Family members rushed over, immediately began performing CPR. First responders arrived, and in an hour, they were able to get little Annalisa's Camp's heartbeat to come back. Now, with her heart being stopped and she being gone, technically gone that long, her chances of full recovery are not as strong, but she's alive. And this happened about a week ago. So she's currently at Texas Children's Hospital. And the family is concerned because the doctor recommended that the toddler be declared brain dead 2 days after she was admitted to the hospital. Now, I know most hospitals would like to wait 72 hours. Unfortunately, though, even though we usually, would kind of wait that long, when you have a child who was submerged and no heartbeat for an hour, that, like I said, the prognosis is poor. So I can understand why the doctor was, trying to be practical about it. But, if I was this girl's family, I'd be like, if there's a chance, I want to take it. And the father told Fox 26 that if there's a 1% chance or a 5% chance of results, we're going to take it. So when the doctor recommended that the toddler be declared brain dead and then removed from life support, the family obtained a temporary restraining order blocking the hospital from making that determination. They want her to keep receiving the care she needs. This is according to Fox 26 and Daily Mail. So the family and hospital have agreed to allow for brain death testing to continue pending a June 11th hearing. So that buys her another 9 days. And I think the hospital will know more. But according to the father, if she would have been declared brain dead, it could have greatly limited her ability to receive treatment moving forward. So he says the staff has been wonderful, but the legal system is giving the family certain restraints. He says he's seen the daughter improve and wants to allow that to keep happening. I don't blame him. He said, positive results, you can't cut her lifeline off 4 or 5 days into it and prevent her from additional treatments. So the hospital, from what we understand, has agreed to work on trying to get her transferred to another medical facility that could provide more treatment options. And brain death testing is set to begin on Friday. With medical ethics, we many times, it's not very easy for us doctors to decide. It's definitely not easy for parents to decide. And I fortunately had very few patients in this scenario. Also, unfortunately, I had patients where we had drowning patients that already came in dead on arrival. And so I almost wish we had some more scenarios where they were still alive, but unfortunately with drownings, it's, we do our best, but if they've deceased, there's only, you can't do much. But there's multiple points of view that end up being looked at. Is the child suffering? Is are we giving false hope? Is the child deteriorating? And is this costing the parents more money? We've had people sue saying, you convinced us that we should continue to do care for another 30 days, and you should have told us 30 days ago that this wouldn't have worked. So there's a lot of different, shall we say, possibilities and ramifications that could come. But when you're looking at somebody's 2-year-old daughter, they're going to fight, and they should. If you remember, there was a study where there were individuals who were on life support, and they looked at the numbers of those withdrawn and those where those patients were allowed to still stay on life support. 42% of the patients who were allowed to continue life support. Now, I think these were traumatic brain injuries, not drownings, but of those who continued life support, 42% were able to not only survive, but regain some level of independence. Because so the argument that we always are given as patients or as the medical team is, what is going to be the quality of life? Are they going to be alive but unconscious? Are they not going to be able to speak, eat, talk, drink? Now, for me as a family member, there's no way I would call it. I'm not going to let them go. But on the other end, are they going to be conscious and suffering because they can't move, because they can't eat, because now they're, and so the conversations kind of surround what is going to be the quality of life. But with that one study we spoke about a few years ago, where there were individuals who had a good quality of life, if the hospital didn't remove the life support too quickly, it starts to make you wonder if we need to reevaluate when we remove the life support. So, as it pertains to, looking for brain injury and somebody is brain dead, you look if, obviously, are they in a coma? Do they have no reflexes? When you look at their EEG, is their brain activity? Are they able to breathe independently? And so, it's not an easy subject at all. But we are hearing a little bit of a trend where hospitals, appear to be, in need of these beds. And you are concerned that because of the high cost of healthcare, somebody's going to recommend to you to limit the life support. And, if you want extra time, you should be able to ask for extra time. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. Because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. We'll help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. If you were hurt in a car accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, rideshare accident, slip and fall, or any other type of accident, call our 24/7 hotline now and let us help you find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. I'm Gina Hart, here with spokesman Jack Mercer. So Jack, tell our listeners who should give us a call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me join you here in the studio. It's always great to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. The call is free, the consultation is free, and with our no-fee guarantee, you pay nothing unless we win you money.
That's great advice. Thanks, Jack. And is it true that the Legal Help Center is open 24/7?
That's right, Gina. We're open anytime you need us, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now and let us help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. Not available in California. May not be available in all states.
And we're back on Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Dahlia spelled out, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So it's primary day in 6 states: California, Iowa, Montana, New Jersey, South Dakota, and New Mexico. So a lot of the attention right now is on California and Iowa. Some pretty competitive primaries for governor, and in Los Angeles, the mayor race. So Democrats are hoping to use what happens today as kind of a harbinger of what's going to happen in the fall. Republicans are hoping to also show, look, we made some major headway, especially in a very, very blue state like California. So California has what they call a jungle primary, where voters send the top two contenders, the ones that received the majority of the votes, to November's general election, unless somebody got 50%. So as opposed to there being a Republican primary or a Democratic primary in California, they just pick the top two contenders, which actually helps the Democrats more. I think that's why it happened. So rather than there increase that possibility of somebody running up against a Republican, if you have a bunch of people on the ballot and the top and the majority of people are voting for Democratic candidates, then you just increase your chance that it's going to be two Democrats running for governor or two Democrats running for mayor. But what is, starting to make things a little different is Steve Hilton has been doing very, very well in the polls as it pertains to the governor race. Javier Becerra still in the lead and projected to be the overall winner, not only today, but in the race in the fall. But if Steve Hilton is able to edge out his competitors, then it could be a Democratic running against a Republican. Same thing with LA Mayor. Karen Bass is still the leader by a thin margin, still predicted by Polymarket to win not only today, but in the fall. But you got Spencer Pratt that is really edging up closely. And if the primary shows that it's that he and Karen Bass get the majority of votes, then it's going to be a mano a mano to the race in the fall. So it will be very, very interesting to see what happens. In Iowa, Democratic voters are choosing a candidate in the Senate race. They say the Republican in the race is already the de facto nominee. And in order to win a majority in the Senate, Democrats need to pick up 4 more seats. And so Democrats are hoping to pick up this Iowa seat. Not sure if it's going to happen, but all eyes are on that from the Democrat standpoint. So Vice President Kamala Harris did not want to run for governor. And once she decided that she wasn't going to run in the governor's race, the California governor's race, we thought it's because she wants to run for president again. She has been leading in the potential candidates for 2028 on the Democratic side. Not sure why, but she is. And so once we heard that, she was like, no, I'm not going to go for governor. Also, one thing about politics is once you hit a certain office, many people find it very difficult to then demote. And so once you're vice president of the United States, just millimeters from the Oval Office, to go back to becoming a California governor, she's probably, if she has presidential ambitions, she would rather be former vice president as opposed to Governor Kamala Harris. Personally, I think you keep working. It's better for you to be working than unemployed. So if there's no chance of her going to be president one day, she might as well be working, and she probably had a very good chance of becoming governor. But she didn't want it. Senator Alex Padilla didn't want it. State Attorney General Rob Bonta didn't want it. But Javier Becerra has now started to really soar in the polls. He worked for the Biden administration, and whether he did the type of job that Californians need, that's up to the voters to decide. But being up against Steve Hilton, who wants to change the ridiculousness, the spending, the fraud, the ridiculous taxes, the high cost of living in California, he's becoming a lot more popular. So let me see. now before, let me see. So Becerra was the Health and Human Services Secretary, as we know. He has been up against billionaire philanthropist Tom Steyer. Now, Tom Steyer, also Democrat, has been starting to edge out Steve Hilton. And again, he's got a lot of money. So he's been able to put a lot of, however, his support of biological males in female sports is not a very popular one, even with a lot of Democrats. So we don't know if that's going to help. However, his money does. So we'll see what happens with that. Apparently, he has spent over $213 million of his own fortune on the race. $213 million. Gosh. Yeah, you look at that and you're like, you know what that could do? The amount of money being spent on this California race, what it could do for the homelessness, what it could do for the budget deficit. It's sad. I don't know if I'm really for campaign finance reform and limitations on what people could spend. Because I really like less government. I don't like the government being involved, telling you what you can or cannot do. But gosh, I mean the money is wasted. You lose the election, with the exception of getting maybe some PR and some airtime. That's millions of dollars lost that could have gone somewhere else. And I don't like the idea that the richer person wins. One thing that really helped Trump in the beginning is he had said when he was running in 2016, don't donate. Save your money. I'm going to do this on my own. Now, later he did, because he is a smart businessman. You might as well. You are allowed to have Well, also, in order for you to make it to a primary, you have to show you got donations. So, but the idea of, I'm not going to be asking you guys for money, that was a pretty attractive to people. And so that's how wealthy people could somehow supersede. But if you want somebody who, like I did, worked in fast food, waited tables, bartended, worked their ways themselves through school, lived in apartments, had to walk to work because they couldn't afford a car. Somebody who kind of, had your sort of more upbringing, right? Lived in your grandmother's living room. It's, you're not going to find the candidates like that when you have millionaires running and being able to support themselves as it pertains to their campaign finances and election benchmarks. So we'll see what happens. So Republican Steve Hilton, the former Fox News host, he was endorsed by President Trump in April. He has been doing really, really well. His platform focuses on increasing affordable housing for first-time home buyers, bolstering tech industries, reviving California's film industry. I hope he goes far. I don't know if he will. And I don't know if he'll be able to beat Becerra. But it'll be interesting. Now, California drew up new congressional districts. So this measure temporarily sidestepped the Independent Redistricting Commission, and it gave them 5 new seats. And so the Republican incumbents, I guess now, they're going to try to run for a similar district. But now many of these long-serving Republicans, like Representative Ken Calvert, Representative Young Kim, might not be able to keep their seats. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this. And then Iowa Republican voters are now deciding the party's nominee for governor. Governor Kim Reynolds, the current sitting governor, is not going to run for re-election. There are 5 Republicans on the ballot. Representative Randy Feenstra has been endorsed by Trump. Again, everybody's looking at, well, if Trump endorses somebody, does that help? It looks like it's been helping a lot. I guess he's up against an Iowa businessman, Zach Land. And so, they say, Iowans, the candidate has to secure at least 35% of the vote to win outright. If nobody clears that threshold, then there's going to be the delegates that actually make the final choice, not the voters. But whoever the Republican-backed candidate is, they're saying he's not going to be a shoo-in because there are Democrats that are now outraising other candidates for governor. So Democrats want to flip the Iowa seat. I don't know if they're going to be able to. So a lot to look at today. There's going to be a lot going on with the primary. We'll keep you posted if we get any more information. But I don't think a Republican has been mayor of L.A., Los Angeles, since I guess the late '90s. So it was Richard Riordan. I lived in LA at the time, and so it'll be interesting, to see how far Spencer Pratt can, take it, and Steve Hilton, but you have a lot of Republicans and you have a lot of Democrats that don't like the homelessness, the crime. So it'll be interesting to see how they vote today. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. Okay, so one thing that people are kind of, shall we say, nervous about is when we mess with nature. So we have issues that come and go, as it pertains to natural disasters, as it pertains to pandemics, as it pertains to insect vectors, and mosquitoes carry some pretty bad diseases. And one way that researchers are trying to fight the diseases caused by mosquitoes is to limit their population. Now, these mosquitoes are pretty horny, and they like to, hook up during this time of year, especially after storms and hurricanes and when weather gets warm, and they love the dusk and dawn. Really, from dusk till dawn is kind of their happy time, and they find nice pools of water and they start to party, and then they feed on hosts with the suck blow mechanism, where they blow an anesthetic into you so you don't feel it on you. Then it sucks your blood, and then it goes to another host and does the same thing. And unfortunately, when it does the suck blow mechanism, it could give you diseases. Malaria, Zika, dengue, yellow fever. So one thing that researchers have done is to take mosquitoes, genetically modify them so that they would be sterile or cause the offspring to not survive by being infected with the bacteria. And then the population goes down. Now, when the Zika virus hit, or the Zika epidemic hit in 2016, there was a lot of talk that there were genetically modified mosquitoes that had been released recently. I've not seen the evidence that the Zika epidemic that came up, that was, plaguing the Rio Olympics and caused women to have babies with anencephaly and deformed brain development and head development and syndromes that cause them to not live long lives. No proof that genetically modified mosquitoes caused that. But there have been some failed attempts where GMO mosquitoes might have actually not only not done the job, but created hybrid populations that made them even more resistant. So, in Yiddish, we have the phrase, man dinks, God lakes, man works, God laughs. Nature always wins. Nature will always find a way. And so if we're trying to prevent, we think we're trying to, stave off a pandemic, we could be making things worse. That's why we have to be very, very careful with some of our calls for, fixing the environment by setting up, by using electric cars. Yes, decrease the use of fossil fuels can help the environment, but what are these lithium batteries doing? What are the fires from these cars doing? What is the climate or the environmental toll with all these electrical wirings and plugs? So, these are things we need to think about. So why is this in the news? Well, Google is asking permission to release 32 million mosquitoes in California and Florida. They want to release this army of sterile or bacterial infected mosquitoes to lower the number of illness spreading bugs. And so you call them good bugs. I guess these good bugs versus the bad bugs. So they want to use quote unquote good bugs, GMO modified bugs, to attack, or not to attack, but to mate with the bad bugs, causing them to have baby mosquitoes that won't live, or just eggs won't hatch. So this is a debug program. Google is using its tech expertise to raise an army of sterile male mosquitoes to lower the number of illness-spreading bugs. They are concerned about West Nile, Zika, chikungunya, malaria, dengue. And so a notice from the Federal Register shows that the U.S. EPA is reviewing Google's request to release up to 16 million mosquitoes annually. And to do this in Florida, California, over the next 2 years, the EPA is going to decide whether to greenlight it or not. Now, a lot of people are freaked out about this. And there's going to be a public comment period that ends on June 5th. So there's not a lot of time. Now, when you get bit by a mosquito, we don't think it's male. We think it's the female. The female, they identify as well. I mean, they may not identify, but it's the female mosquito that usually does most of the biting. So if we could figure out a way where we don't make any more females, or where these females can't, spread disease, we're on to something. So one of the approaches they're doing is you take the male mosquitoes, you introduce it to a naturally occurring bacteria called Wolbachia. This stops them from having offspring with wild female mosquitoes. When an infected male tries to mate with a wild female, her eggs won't hatch. So the population gets smaller with each generation. Now, why is Google involved? Well, Google's been working in science. There's Verily Health. It's a health and AI company that began as a project at Google X. And so we are seeing Google get into the kind of the health and public health sort of sphere. Now, what has happened in the past with something like this? So they say in Jacobina, Brazil, in 2018, a Yale peer-reviewed study revealed that after 2 years of continual releases of Oxytex genetically modified mosquitoes, the population of the Aedes aegypti failed to drop. They say, furthermore, the GE mosquitoes bred with the local wild population, making hybrid mosquitoes. Researchers found that these wild hybrids inherited pieces of the modified genome, now making them more robust and difficult to eradicate. So 2018 was 2 years after the 2016 Zika outbreak. This is why people think that might have been related. Again, we don't have scientific evidence to say that, and this Yale study does not bring that up, but the Aedes aegypti mosquito was the same one that was involved in the Zika outbreak. Doesn't mean that, it was man's fault that happened, but it is, something that some people are concerned about. Are we allowing there to be some, do we have certain populations that affect, and limit other populations of sort of bacteria or so, when you decrease one vector, you increase an opportunity for another vector. These are things that are being studied and are being looked at. In the Cayman Islands, they said after several years of experimental releases between 2009 and 2018 to curb dengue fever, The Cayman Islands government denounced the project, aborted a planned $8 million expansion. They cited a lack of proven reduction in mosquito-borne diseases and criticized the program as ineffective. In the Florida Keys in 2010 to 2021, the initial proposal to release Oxitec's OX 513A mosquitoes in Key West following a 2009 outbreak was abandoned. There was overwhelming local opposition. I remember us talking about this on air. Residents and advocacy groups did not want it. In Malaysia, in 2010, Oxitec tried early open release experiments, and those got abandoned after local health ministries and researchers said it wasn't practical and costly. So, I like the fact, all right, and I want scientists to continue to evolve the science. We have major issues as it pertains to mosquito-borne illnesses. And so, being proactive to figure out how we can stop Zika, dengue, yellow fever, malaria needs to be done. But when we mess with nature, when it bites us in the butt. And what really bothers me about mosquitoes is, you could try and avoid rat droppings with hantavirus, and we got to talk about this. Somebody had just died of hantavirus. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, you could try and avoid rat droppings. You could wash your hands. These mosquitoes, they get you. Yeah, I mean, you could spray yourself with the off and with the and put permethrin on your clothes, and you could tuck your pants into your socks. But I got to tell you, these mosquitoes find a way to bite you. And so I'm very fearful of mosquito vectored illness. So we need to find something. It's just, is this, sterile GMO way, which has been tried before, the way to do it? 1-877-DOLLY, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis here from Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You can find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can speak with a live agent right now. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now to find out if you have a case and how much you could potentially get.
Thanks, Vernon. You heard it, folks. If you've been injured, call and find out how much you qualify for. Call 800-679-0800. That's 800-679-0800. 800-679-0800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So 2 people who were being quarantined and monitored for the hantavirus on that MV Hondas cruise ship are now coming back home to their homes in New York. One of 3 New Yorkers exposed to hantavirus will remain in isolation at a Nebraska hospital, where 13 people from the MV Hondas cruise ship are being monitored for symptoms of hantavirus, which usually you get from exposure to rat droppings, but we believe it's of a strain that can allow person-to-person transmission. There's a 42-day incubation period, and they are going to be monitored for that. They say in total, 5 people have left that facility to return to their home states this week, and will remain under constant monitoring at home until June 22nd. The 2 New Yorkers leaving the Nebraska facility will be transported home on non-commercial flights and will return to their homes near New York City, according to Daily Mail. The Andes strain of the hantavirus, which is responsible for this cluster of cases in the MV Hondias, has an incubation period of 42 days, which means incubation period is the time it takes to show symptoms from exposure. Now, if something has an incubation period of 5 days, then we expect we'll know something, between now and 5 days. But when it's 42 days, that's a month and a half, roughly. So the ship originally had departed from Argentina, if you remember, in early April, carrying over 100 passengers and 61 crew. 3 people have died, a couple, and somebody exposed to the couple. And there have been 13 confirmed cases. I think public officials have done a good job trying to isolate this. However, the passengers, of course, are very upset that the cruise ship did not handle it better, being that another individual had died from exposure, and now 13 people have had confirmed cases. The Andes strain is very unique because usually with hantavirus, you have to have direct exposure yourself to the rat feces or saliva or blood or urine. But the idea that the couple might have been bird watching, brought that with them, got infected, and then possibly spread it person to person is kind of frightening. And so the Andes strain has been the one in the news. Now, we have been told that we have an Arizona person who has died. However, it's a different virus strain. It's a hantavirus, but a different strain. It is known as the sin nombre virus. Now, sin means without, nombre means name. So without name virus or strain of it. It's carried primarily by deer mice. We have seen this strain in Arizona and the Southwest. They do not believe this case is anywhere associated with the Andes virus outbreak on that cruise ship. And the sin nombre virus or strain is not known to spread from person to person. But individuals could get it if they breathe in dust contaminated with the urine, dropping saliva, or nesting materials of infected rodents. So according to the Mojave County Department of Public Health, they say this is a confirmed case of hantavirus. The person apparently had hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, which affected his lungs and put him into respiratory distress. Source of exposure now has not yet been determined. Local transmission cannot be ruled out. So they're trying to figure out, did this person travel anywhere prior? What did they do? And, since the person has died, they have to get information from other family members. So this strain is historically associated with cases in Arizona and the Southwest. Again, different from the Andes virus. And the sin nombre is not known to spread from person to person. Again, it's those who breathe dust contaminated with urine, dropping saliva, or nesting materials of infected rodents. Hantavirus is uncommon. And we've had hundreds of cases of hantavirus each year. It's just now it's making the news because somebody died and because of what happened with the cruise ship. But it's not like, oh no, now we have a hantavirus epidemic. We've had hantavirus cases for decades. So residents could run into rodents or rodent droppings in houses, sheds, garages, barns, cabins, campers and RVs, storage boxes, vacant buildings, campsites, and other recreational areas. And so it's interesting because if somebody asks me, do I have rodents or rats or mice in the house? No, I rarely see one. Sometimes the cats will bring one in or the dogs will. But then again, you wonder if they've been in the house and then they potty or they do something on your shoe and then you grab your shoe. Are you getting exposed? So just be aware that these little critters could be in your house and you not know. Now that we're doing RV travel, or summer cabins or things like that, many of us are cleaning out our garages. I'm doing a big cleanup of the house the next couple days. You could be exposed. So symptoms of hantavirus include fever, fatigue, muscle aches, headache, dizziness, chills, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, which is very frustrating for us doctors, especially who do telemedicine, because patients will call up going, I have flu, or I have, I need an antibiotic. They tell you there's symptoms, and it sounds viral. It sounds like a virus. We just don't know what virus it is. Flu season, in the respiratory seasonal flu usually runs end of October to end of May. So we're kind of out of the respiratory flu season. There might be some one-off flu B, flu A cases, but for the most part, we're kind of out of flu season. So when you have symptoms like this, you should get checked for COVID, and then you might want to ask about hantavirus and get tested. Now, the initial symptoms of fever, headache, muscle aches, headache, dizziness, chills, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea could go away. But in some people, it could progress, and then you could start getting a cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing. If you have any of these symptoms, even the mild ones, after potential rodent exposure, you need to get checked out. So the Mojave County Health Department is recommending for you to watch for signs of rodent activity, including droppings and nesting materials. Air out enclosed spaces for at least 30 minutes before cleaning, because what's happening is this hantavirus respiratory syndrome is you breathing it in. So you want to make sure that you have good aeration in the area. Avoid sweeping or vacuuming rodent droppings, which can stir contaminated dust into the air. Spray droppings or nests with a disinfectant solution. Allow it to soak in before cleanup. I also don't want you breathing in the disinfectant solution chemicals, so still wear a mask. Wear gloves and a well-fitting mask, they suggest, when cleaning contaminated areas. Seal holes and gaps around homes, garages, sheds, and other structures to prevent rodents from entering. Store food, pet food, and garbage in rodent-resistant containers. Yeah, I live in the desert, and I'm blown away at how many mice are running around. You see a lot of lizards, we see snakes, we see scorpions, we see black widows, we see coyotes. But yeah, these mice, and they know how to hide, and they know how to blend. If rodent droppings or nesting materials are found, don't be posting pictures on Instagram. Open doors and windows and allow the area to air out. Spray droppings or nests with a disinfectant or bleach solution. Allow the solution to soak in for 15 minutes. Wear gloves and a face covering, and use paper towels or other disposable materials to safely clean up the droppings or nesting materials. Place waste in sealed plastic bags and dispose of it properly. Wash hands thoroughly after cleaning up. Residents that are unable to safely clean the area themselves are encouraged to consider contacting a licensed pest control or remediation professional for assistance. And don't have them do your dishes. I know I'm looking at some of the parts of the house that don't get cleaned routinely, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a pain in the butt. So maybe I will call them and say, I'm worried about a rat. Trust me, it's going to cost some money. For additional information, they say go to the cdc.gov hantavirus. It's a shame somebody passed, but it just reminds us we need to be aware, we need to be careful. These viruses are tricky because we don't have antibiotics for them. We have antivirals for flu. We have antivirals for COVID. We have antivirals for shingles, but we don't have antivirals for a lot of these viruses out there, and we don't have vaccines. So it makes it a little bit more challenging to treat. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.